God is good, and with each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. This is the Nathan NAPALM channel, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing, especially if you're interested in Pantheon related content on our march to launch. Today I want to talk about something interesting. So I was perusing through Pantheon interviews and Pantheon information, just trying to glean any kind of information I could of anything I maybe hadn't thought of, or etc. And I found this clip. It was actually taken from TwitchCon 2017, and it's interesting because they talked about something that I had thought of, but I definitely didn't think was ever addressed, and I was wrong, it was. So what it is okay, so we know that the rating system is going to be open world, correct? It's not going to be limited where you go in this instance with these specific rules and things like that. For example, I'm not saying it will be smart, but it would be possible for you to get in, an entire group together of paladins and that's it, and go out and try to defeat a raid boss, right? So there's not like a particular makeup the game forces you to have. Do you see what I'm saying? So what happens when the developers create a raid boss, for example, who was designed for 20 people, as mentioned in this clip, and it's hard, so people say, you know what, screw it, we'll bring 40 people and we'll just devour this open world boss easily, we'll zerg it. Okay, so what happens when you try to do that in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen? I think you'll find a very interesting answer. Let's listen to this clip from the developers and from Brad McQuaid talking about this very subject.
So, one of the favorite things for people to do, is, oh, well, they can tell this encounter was made for 20 people, so they bring 40, right? Well, if you do that in our game, the mob will react to that. He may leave, he may call in reinforcements.
Ooh, that's definitely different.
And things like that. So it's like, if you think you're just going to go around and zerg stuff and it's going to be easy, no.
So you might show up for this easy boss fight with your 40 people, right? And he may just see, well, I'm way too overwhelmed, the boss itself, and just leave. Ninja on out of there, poof, gone. No raid boss drops for you. Or maybe he'll call in more reinforcements, and suddenly it will be a fight worthy of 40 people. So I think that's interesting. I think that's a great way to handle open world raiding and to avoid that problem. And I really enjoyed hearing that, and I'm glad that there is an answer for that, and that's not one of those things you're going to have to think of as an afterthought. But that's not all I want to talk about in this video. There's also other situations that they spoke about in this that I thought was very interesting. I want to make sure everybody got a chance to hear it and kind of discuss it. So another situation is how, there's going to be many different ways that raid bosses are handled, and it's going to be on a per boss encounter, so they have all kinds of tricks up their sleeves, and I want you to hear this little trick up their sleeve for this particular raid boss that they're speaking of.
There's one encounter actually in this zone in Helnir Pass.
Yeah, it's dungeon here.
Where I don't think we're going to be able to show it today, but it was a fight that our team had put together. It was one of the first boss encounters that we set up, if I remember correctly, and the script to it is really quite brilliant, and it took us who hadn't designed it, it took us a few tries to sort of figure it out. Once we've kind of figured out what was going on, it's like, oh, that's cool. And again, it was tying in the atmosphere system that we were talking about.
Right.
So there were various atmospheres that were going on, and they were having different effects upon different people in the group depending on where they were standing in the room. Once we sort of figured out what was going on there, then we could figure out the rest of the fight. But the interesting thing about that fight too is that the door closes behind you. So it's still an open dungeon. But once you engage that particular fight, boom, yeah, you're there, and nobody can come in to rescue you.
So normally this is an open world game. There's no instances.
So there you go. That's an interesting way to lock the group in. So they're all in there. You're with the boss. That's it. Whoever, is in that room at that time, the end, the door closes. They could also do another scenario where you're in a dungeon, and as you go in, you start fighting him. He slams, his fists or his feet on the ground. It causes a cave in behind you, and the only entrance or exit, and you're trapped in there with that encounter. And you have to deal with it. So there's lots of ways for them to do some interesting things that still lock the group into this content without outside help. So, of course, if, you would assume that, if something were to happen, the group wipes, you don't make it through the encounter, the boss resets, get, health back to full, and the door opens again, allowing people to come in to res you and that type of thing, or for you to be able to get back and retrieve your corpse. So, that's just another aspect that, that Visionary Realms has the tools to be able to do to make raid encounters still something interesting and etc. So I really liked that, and I thought that was worth sharing. And of course, I'm going to have to end this video with talking with this last clip with them in this same interview, where they're talking about behaviors of the bosses and all the different things we can kind of expect. Well, a few of the things that we can expect out of bosses and out of raid encounters and things like that as far as disposition or behaviors are concerned. So let's hear that.
You were talking about boss mechanics earlier. In some games that I've played, there's a hard and rage timer for people who might not have enough DPS to beat the boss. Like, if you don't beat this boss in 10 minutes, you'll just get destroyed. How are your encounters different from what we're used to seeing in games like WoW or Final Fantasy 14? Like, well, how might yours stand out?
I mean, you're going to see all that. I mean, you know, that's expected. But I think it's really the behaviors. They'll have different AI. They'll have, you know, for example, you might go into a boss encounter and that boss mob just goes after your healer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he's like, well, what's the, you know, he's almost like the character, like, you know, it's like he's going to take out your healer first. Or maybe he is an alarmist or something, and he flees and brings back reinforcements. And so it's just giving them different behaviors. And you know, that's one of the challenges of MMO is the whole Groundhog Day. It's the same. You know, the mob looks different, but it's the same tactics, right?
It's a different like color scheme or something.
Right,
like
and then to make them harder, we'll just give them more hit points or something. No, these guys will have different AI behaviors and actually be intelligent, and you're going to have to learn. Okay, well, if this guy has a specific behavior, then we need to have a completely different strategy in order to beat him. So the first time, you know, you're gonna.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a surprise.
Yeah.
So you got to probably just end up wiping and, all right, so he did this. Yeah. Let's try this next attempt.
Right. Or send the least favorite guy in your guild and
sacrificial lamb.
Right. There we go. Yeah.
What always gets me. Yeah, that's Dave.
That's Dave, right? There you go.
What always gets me is the amount of thought that's going into all of these encounters. So we're talking about boss encounters. And how it took some of us on the team a while to figure it out. But we're seeing that in almost everything that's happening here. We take the tenet of challenge and really trying to incorporate it into whatever we do. And that doesn't mean it's going to be impossible. It's going to mean that you have to think about things in a little bit of a different way. Our creative designer, Chris Perkins, is probably he wears the title well because he's incredibly creative. So he comes up with, he gets together with the rest of the development team, designers like Corey Lefevre and the others, and really tries to think outside of the box. And so they bring in their creative ideas and their experience with other MMOs and other games, and just try and push it a little bit further, make you try to think about things, about the approach in a different way that you might not have thought about it before.
So there you have it. That was some great information I found. Maybe you've already seen it. I apologize if you have. It's still worth discussing. It's still some very valid points and some very interesting insight into something that we don't get a lot of insight in right now in the point that the development is in a Pantheon at this particular time of this recording. So I thought I would want to share that and talk about it a little bit. I hope you guys gleaned some information from it. I hope you enjoyed the video. And please drop me a like down below, leave your comment, let me know what you think. Maybe there's some other interesting ideas you have that may be implemented in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen at launch. Whatever you want to talk about, go right ahead. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'll see you next time. And as usual, guys, God bless and happy gaming. But please just subscribe. I can't even describe being part of my tribe. I'll even offer you a prize. But just please just subscribe and hit the bell notification too.